Are you facing a possible lockdown amidst the COVID-19 crisis? What do you need and what don't you need? I'm going to talk about it in this video.
Let's go.
Hi there, Coach Tanya with Criticalbench, holistic health practitioner. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what do you absolutely need and what can you do without if you're facing a possible lockdown or some type of quarantine situation that's going to keep you at home for a period of time. Before I get into that though, I want you to check out that pinned comment below for a program that can help you. It's a kickstart. Think of it like a kickstart. It's going to help you if you've not been making your health and wellness a priority. It's going to help get you back on track. It's called the 3-day immune boosting protocol. And what it basically is, it's going to get you set with establishing some excellent behaviors, lifestyle choices, along with a few ingredients, foods, things that you want to think about making sure you're implementing so that your nutrition is on point to increase and boost your overall wellness. And a healthy, strong you means a healthy, strong immune system, and we all want that. So click that pinned comment, check out that product. It's going to help you out if you have some questions and concerns. You're not really sure where to start because you've been a little bit slack when it comes to your health and wellness, okay? Check it out. Okay, so a lockdown. What's a lockdown? Well, we're end of March here, heading into April, and coronavirus is everywhere on social media. It's all over the news. The good thing about that is that there's some very valid, accredited, and credible sources that are bringing very current, very real, factual, trustworthy information to us, to kind of put things into perspective, because it can be a very scary time for some of us. A lot of us have questions that aren't being answered. There are people working on this to get us answers as quickly as possible. I applaud them for that. But it can be a bit of an anxious time, because how many of us have ever been in this kind of situation? To me, it feels very surreal. It feels very surreal. And not exactly the same type of crisis, but I can remember back in 86? Anyways, the big stock market crash. And it was like pandemonium. I mean, I remember driving, I was in university, and I remember I was on summer break and I was working in construction, and I was driving to work that morning. And I was hearing on the news about people like jumping out of buildings and off of bridges, and because they just had no hope. They'd lost everything, and they were taking such extreme measures because of that hopelessness that they had. And that was so devastating and sad, because things did bounce back, not right away, but things did get better. And I have tremendous hope and great faith in the people who are working on this, that this too is going to get better. So I don't want us to be hopeless or feel hopeless. I don't want us to have that sense or feeling of lack of hope, because this is going to get better. And what really is filling me up with such great feelings of hope is how I'm watching the globe, like our global community, come together, supporting one another, supporting and honoring and respecting, things like social distancing and quarantines and isolation, to really do our part to stop this thing in its tracks. So there's a lot of people doing a lot of really wonderful things to be actively part of ending this. So there is hope. There is a lot of hope. However, when you hear more and more, like if every day or every week you turn on your computer and you hear that a new country or state has gone into a lockdown, that can cause you to catch your breath and send just feelings of fear throughout your body, because it sounds serious, and it is serious, because we basically get up and go about our day without anybody telling us we can't go or do what we want to do. Within reason, of course, right? But we get up, some of us go to work, go to the beach, take our kids to school, take the dog for a walk, go outside and work in the yard, head to the grocery store, go to the mall, run some errands. And all of a sudden, that way of life is put on hold for a period of time. And in some cases it's maybe indefinite, because until the numbers start to decrease in a manner that the CDC and the WHO feel like we've got a handle on this, it is kind of indefinite, because at the bottom line is we need to stop this thing from spreading, and we're all doing our part to help with that. So until we see a massive difference or decrease in those numbers, lockdowns and quarantines are going to continue. So when it comes to lockdown, now I don't know where you may be listening and watching from, but I am in Tampa Bay, Florida. And I never thought I would see the day that I would walk into a Walmart Supercenter or a Target Supercenter or a Publix grocery store or a Winn-Dixie and see complete aisles void, and I mean completely void, of certain products and food, and a lot of it. One day I'm going to go back and watch this video and go, did that really happen? Because again, it feels surreal standing in the canned goods aisle that is in a big superstore and seeing maybe 20 to 40 cans of canned goods in an aisle that holds like hundreds. It's humbling, it's eye-opening, and if it doesn't create an instant like awareness, then there's a missing link, right? So seeing that and feeling that can definitely create a human behavior response where I've got to get as much of everything as possible. And I understand that feeling, especially you might have a family of children that all of a sudden aren't going to school, so more food is probably being consumed throughout the day than normal. So I can understand that panic. You may also be looking after elderly parents, and perhaps you're doing the shopping for them as well, just to save them the trip of having to go out. But flocking to our supermarkets and just blindly basically hoarding and stocking up to the point of insanity isn't really necessary, okay? Few things that hopefully will relax and put to rest any sort of existing anxiousness. Food is an essential part of human life. We need it to sustain human life. So places where we buy food are not going to be shut down. Are they going to be limited in supply? Absolutely, because this isn't something that's just confined to a single state or a single province or a single area. It's global, so everyone is being affected by this. But here's something to remember. We all need food to survive, and there is enough for everybody if we can be reasonable about what we need to have right now to get through the next couple days or the next week before going back again and stocking up and being very mindful of what we're getting. You might be very hardcore, very anchored in your beliefs about all organic, from scratch made meals, and that's the way you raise your children, that's the way you eat, that's the way it's always been done, and that's the way it's going to continue. And you might be able to keep that up to a point. We might have to make some modifications and changes in that, because the reality is a lot of that stuff is going to those the quantities of those types of products are already sort of in, not necessarily bountiful quantities all the time, and those are going to become more limited. They're going to be, probably the first to go. So the things that you do need are, or what I'm going to suggest, I'm not going to tell you what you need. I'm going to help bring some reasoning and logic into this, because this is a temporary situation, folks. This is a temporary situation. So what makes good sense to get through this period of time with what you need for you and your family to be well fed, to not go hungry, and to not have every closet in your house filled with canned beans. Or toilet paper, that toilet paper thing, insane. So when it comes to meals, I'm gonna ask you, think what are, high calorie, like calorie dense foods that will go a long way. Okay, so obviously and non-perishables, like your canned goods and your pastas and jarred sauces, things like that can sit on the shelf long term. Now, doing that, consider the number of people you have in your family, how many meals a week you're making, and instead of buying 100 cans, you know, maybe 24 cans are going to be good and get you through the next 2 weeks for things like chilies and soups and, you know, casseroles, stuff like that. And thinking about meals like that, meals that you can make something that's going to go a long way, that's going to be more than just one meal. You might get a dinner and then leftovers for lunch the next day. Also things like, you know, a hamburger, that can go along for a lot of things. Sauces, soups, chilies, casseroles, other elements that you can pull in to make a big meal that's going to go a long way, that you can really stretch it. Things like a ham, you know, buying a large ham. So one night you have ham and scalloped potatoes. The next night you might make a ham and mushroom lasagna. You might have ham and eggs for breakfast the next morning. You can boil the bone down to make split pea soup. Like, think of food items that can make multiple meals for you and your family without having to buy, you know, ridiculous amounts, not only because it might limit somebody else's choices and what they can get. And where are you going to put it all? I mean, realistically, where are you going to put it all? Unless you've got, like, your garage is filled with freezers and refrigerators that you've got endless storage for food. The point is, the point I'm trying to make is to just not panic as much. Okay, not panic as much, because grocery stores aren't going to shut down. Be smart with your shopping. You may have to take a step back from all organic, all natural, and you may have to go to canned goods and frozen foods, okay? For instance, if you can't buy, depending when you get to the grocery store too, like for me, I'm pretty much limited to having to go after work. It's not open when I leave for work in the morning, and by the time I get to the grocery store on my way home from work, there really is, like, the meat department is empty. And most of the produce is gone. The canned goods section is largely empty. So, you know, if you can't get meat, if the meat department is empty, there's things like tuna, canned chicken, canned ham. They may not be the things that you would they might not be your number one choice, but it's better than being hungry, and you can work with that, okay? So be willing to be flexible in what your first choice is, how things have been, what you want the most, and be willing to be flexible in that you're still able to get food items that you can make nutritious, you know, high calorie, like nutritionally dense meals for you and your family. Now, when it comes to cleaning products and all of that, again, do you really need 60 packages of paper towels, or can you get by with 2, and then when you're down to your last 2 rolls, go get another one? To me, that makes a lot more sense. It makes a lot more sense just in terms of storage. I don't have a lot of storage space, so I have to really take that into consideration. I have nowhere to put that much stuff. Consider things like, you know, if you're a big proponent of hand sanitizer, you love hand sanitizer. I have seen where some places have really jacked up the prices of hand sanitizer. Shame on you. I think that's really wrong. But again, you know, there's options. You can make your own. And I'm actually going to do a video on how you can make your own, and you can Google that kind of thing. So there are options, okay? There are options. Soap, you do need soap. And it doesn't really matter as long as you're washing your hands for 15 to 20 seconds and lathering them up with soap and water. That soap is going to eliminate much of the icky stuff, the things you don't want on your hands, off your hands. It doesn't have to be a certain type of soap. It doesn't have to be antibacterial soap. It doesn't have to be bar soap or liquid soap or foam soap or whatever. It just has to be soap. It just has to be soap. Soap is actually really that good. So if you find that you're down to your last bar of soap or your last bottle of the pump soap and you just have some dish soap, now I know a lot of people are going to say, oh my gosh, do not use dish soap on your hands. It may not be the best thing, but if that evening you're out and that's all you have, a tiny bit, okay, clean your hands, wash your hands. So if you are facing a lockdown or, you know, looking at that possibly happening, what do you have to keep you from going crazy at home? You know, things for your kids, games, you know, this might be a great, and even if you have older kids, like I have older kids, they're all young adults, but pulling out a game and kind of blowing the dust off the box and pulling that out is a great family time. This is actually a great time to come together and reconnect as a family, because we all have such busy lives between our jobs and our children and what they're doing. It seems like the family unit we're constantly kind of running in opposite directions at the same time, because that's how we manage life. Put a spin on the lockdown. A great time to reconnect as a family. Get some family games. Find some little projects. Have you been waiting to organize the attic? Get everybody involved. There's a lot of ways you can make a lockdown less painful mentally for you. Okay, so those are my big tips and suggestions on preparing for lockdown, what you need and what you don't. My opinion is largely what you don't need is the excess. A little can go a really long way if you just take a deep breath and go, okay, I know I can get to the grocery store tomorrow again if I have to, or in 2 or 3 days time. We are going to be fine. And I may have to be flexible and make some other choices that aren't, I'm not dancing around the kitchen all happy about, but we're going to get fed, we're going to feel good, we're not going to starve. It's not the end of days. It's a change in how life has been for you up till now for a period of time while this thing settles down and while we get through it as a global community. And don't forget, I'm going to end on this, do not forget to, as you're reconnecting as a family, reconnect as a community. I understand the necessity for social distancing and the massive positive impact it can have. But if you have older neighbors, senior neighbors, maybe somebody who's housebound, maybe somebody who has an autoimmune disorder or is immune compromised who lives next door or down the road from you, give them a text. See if there's something you can bring them. Is there some way that you can help make their life easier during this time? Because if you're in a lockdown, so are they, and they might be a lot more limited in their ability to get out and get the things that they need. And that's somewhere that you can be somebody's hero and really help them. And I'm going to encourage all of us to do that and be very neighborly at this time. And don't forget to check out that pinned comment below for that program that is going to help get you on track, that 3-day immune boosting protocol. Going to get you back on track with really putting your health at the top of the list, making it a priority, and really fueling a very healthy you, a healthy body overall, which means a healthy, strong immune system. So check out that pinned comment below. I'm Coach Tanya with Criticalbench. Don't forget to click that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss any of our great content, and I can't wait to talk to you again.